Who are the Ad Watchers? We are attorneys at the National Advertising Division of BBB National Programs, a team with over 50 years of experience investigating and resolving disputes over the accuracy of national advertising campaigns.
We don't just take ads at face value, we put them to the test. Why? Because advertising law can be simple, but it's the execution that's hard.
Welcome to Season 6 of The Ad Watchers, NAD's podcast that gives a view into how our organization reviews claims and applies advertising law. If you've missed any of our previous episodes from Seasons 1 through 5, don't forget to check them out later. They're available wherever you're listening to this. Welcome to Season 6 of The Ad Watchers. I can't believe it, Annie. We made it to Season 6.
We did.
Thank you all. Thank you all for listening as we go into deep dives into advertising law and the work we're doing at NAD and BBB National Programs. Thank you for listening. We're very excited about Season 6. And in Season 6, one of the things we're going to be doing over the course of Season 6 is looking at particular industries and product categories where we see a trend in them taking a larger part of NAD's docket. Categories of products that we're seeing more and more of at NAD, and we're going to talk about them and maybe be back with some more updates on as these cases develop, because they are they are a very active part of our docket. But, they may be of interest to people in a particular industry, but we are going to also be talking about principles that are universally applied across advertising. So we're very excited to talk about that. And Annie, what are we talking about today? How are we getting started?
So today we're going to talk about some of our pharma cases as well as adjacent health products. So the annual report was issued last month, and as you may have seen, health-related products were the top product categories as a group, so encompassing medical devices, dietary supplements, and health products, including pharmaceuticals and over-the-counter drugs. And so while FDA has been quite active in issuing warning letters to companies big and small, there is still uncertainty in the midst of this deregulatory time. And as has been the case previously, self-regulation can fill in the gaps and provide guidance to industry. So we're going to cover some different health conditions, but also outside issues that are outside of health and safety, such as pricing and influencers.
So we'll start with talking about a few cases relating to GLP-1s that we've seen at NAD. Now, no surprise, you've seen these advertisements everywhere, from Super Bowl ads. You can't escape the ads for GLP-1s and related products. They're everywhere now, as weight loss products are very popular, especially now that we have sort of a new category of these particular products. So not a surprise at all that we're seeing these challenges. We've seen challenges from manufacturers of FDA-approved weight loss drugs against compound pharmacies making claims that their treatments provide the same or better results than the prescription weight loss drugs. So we had 3 challenges from Novo Nordisk, the manufacturer of Wegovy and Ozempic, and these decisions came out in the fall last year. 3 very similar cases involving compound pharmacies and their products that are administered sublingually, that compounded sublingual semaglutide products. I hope I said that right. These are non-injection products that are administered under the tongue, and they made claims that they provide faster absorption, fewer gastrointestinal side effects, in addition to the more typical weight loss claims. They also made claims that they lower blood sugar, that they're less invasive, and there were allegations that these were claims that They are the equivalent or better in terms of safety and efficacy as compared to the injectable products already out there on the market. In each of these cases, the advertisers permanently voluntarily discontinued the claim, so they were not heard on the merits. But I do expect that we will be seeing more of these substantive claims being, and that they will be reviewed at NAD on the merits.
We also had two challenges concerning eczema treatments. The challenges were brought by Sanofi against Galderma for their Nimluvio product. Now, case number 7455 focused on speed of relief claims. So, specifically, as soon as 48 hours, and the implied claims that Nimluvio provides instantaneous itch relief to patients with eczema and prurigo nodularis, or PN, both within 48 hours. There was consumer directed advertising as well as a healthcare provider advertising, but the claims to consumers were permanently discontinued. So we focused on the healthcare provider advertising. The imagery was similar. So there's a woman snapping her fingers, and alongside this headline claim saying itch relief like that. But the claim was qualified with information about the study. For example, a novel IL-31RA targeted biologic that delivers itch relief as soon as 48 hours and helps block the urge to scratch so patients can experience skin healing that lasts. The advertiser commissioned a consumer perception survey of 300 dermatologists who are actual or potential subscribers of the Maluvio product. So half of them saw the test ad and half saw a control, which changed the headline to itch relief as soon as 48 hours. And the results showed that there was basically no takeaway of instantaneous itch relief from the ad. So there was 2 to 3% takeaway net of control. We found the survey to be reliable. There was an appropriate target audience, a proper control. There were also appropriate open-ended and closed-ended questions. Well, we found that the qualifying statement, the novel IL-31RA targeted, etc., it was clear and conspicuous, and it appeared reasonably close to the headlines. Headline claim that it's itch relief like that. We did, however, recommend that Galderma either discontinue or modify the following claims by disclosing clearly, conspicuously, and in close proximity to the claim either the percentages of patients obtaining 48-hour itch relief in the treatment and placebo groups, or the percentage obtaining such relief after netting a placebo. So, and if the claim was made in the audio portion of the ad, that also had to be included in the audio portion. Now, we did not conclude that the promotional claims relying on Galderma's post hoc analyses needed to disclose any limitations based on the post hoc nature. While NAD has been wary of post hoc analyses, relying on such analyses to support claims because it could introduce potential bias, because there's some cherry picked data here, Galderma's analyses focused on a planned endpoint. There was no subgroup analysis, and they didn't have signs of cherry picking. The statistical significance was observed on day 2 was maintained steadily and actually increased over the first 2 weeks and through each pre-specified endpoint. So this is a very narrow exception to not disclosing limitations on post hoc analyses. We are not changing course here. This was very fact specific, very narrow. Turning to case number 7490 focused on claims including the first treatment of its kind that calms the nerves that make you itch, soothes inflammation and restores skin barrier, and treating eczema at its core, and claims that it provides clear skin that lasts. So there's no single core or root cause of eczema. It's a very complex disease, and there's no evidence that Nimluvio was superior to or more effective than any other FDA-approved monoclonal antibody treatment for eczema. So those claims had to be discontinued. They also had to discontinue first treatment of its kind or modify it to avoid conveying that Nimluvio was superior to other eczema treatments. We also recommended modifications to other claims to just tailor the claims to the evidence. So, for example, for soothes inflammation, they had to disclose clearly and conspicuously that it refers to skin inflammation, and also discontinue the claim that the skin can finally heal, or modify it to avoid conveying that all skin lesions associated with the eczema will completely resolve after using the Nemluvio. Um, and Galderma agreed to comply with both decisions.
Next, let's turn to some of our monitoring cases. Now, when NAD brings monitoring cases, the priorities may shift from year to year, but health and safety claims are always a top priority, especially when there are dramatic claims being made and claims that are directed towards vulnerable populations that can't evaluate these claims on their own. So we had a few different health related cases where there were some strong claims. And the first one, and this one was assessed on the merits. It involves an arch support product advertised by the Good Feet store, and that is case 7430. So in this arch support product, there were claims made with it, such as clinically proven to provide significant pain relief in only 4 weeks and engineered to once again help you live the life you love without pain. There were also some very compelling testimonials from users of the product who talked about instant and complete relief from pain due to their plantar fasciitis. So NAD took a look at it. NAD thought that it was very similar to a recent FTC case involving similar claims for the gravity fire product. So NAD took a look at the studies that were submitted by the advertiser and found that they could not support the claim. The studies were not double-blinded, randomized, or controlled. So NAD said that they were not what experts would view as appropriate for support for these kinds of significant pain relief claims. Also, that it was not impractical or not ethical to do the kind of controlled study that you would need to support this. Some of the specific flaws in this study or in the studies were, they did not account for the pain medications that some of the product users may be taking. Very important when you're making pain relief claims, and also that these were self-reported results without any kind of objective verification. Next, we have two cases in which the claims at issue were voluntarily discontinued. MIDI Health, in that case, this was a service provider that offered patients relief from menopausal symptoms. They advertised, ready to say goodbye to hot flashes, weight gain, insomnia, and mood swings. Join the 91% of patients who find relief within 2 months. So NAD, so in this monitoring case, the claims were voluntarily discontinued. Similarly, we saw advertising for the Azutra product, which made a magnesium body butter with capsaicin. And this was also advertised as relief for chronic pain, faster recovery from exercise, melt away pain and stiffness, get instant relief, and sleep better. And in this case, the claims were voluntarily discontinued.
We also had a health related case that looked at strikethrough pricing. Now, given the kitchen table priorities of cost conscious consumers during these uncertain economic times, promises of significant savings are particularly appealing. A Tech City corporation challenged strike-through pricing claims made by Renfo for its LS1 smart scale for body weight. Also, at issue were implied claims that these were limited time offers and the product was offered at a bona fide reduced price that were discounted from the product's regular non sale price. Competition is welcome in the marketplace and can benefit consumers by providing them more choices and savings. But as the FTC's guide on deceptive pricing notes, the savings promised have to be real and offered as part of the regular course of business and not based on a major markdown of a fictitious price to exaggerate savings and potentially mislead consumers. And separately, time limited offers instill a sense of urgency, right? To make that purchase quickly to not miss out on that great deal. A reasonable amount of time has to pass before the advertiser can make similar limited time savings claims. So here, the advertiser argued these were bona fide prices. Challenger countered that, in fact, that was at the case, and especially on the limited time that this was sort of a perpetual offer. There's no evidence in the record that either an appreciable number of sales were made by Renfro at the strike-through price or that the price had been offered for a significant amount of time in the regular course of business, or that the limited time deal was being offered only for a limited time. So we recommended that the strike-through pricing and the limited time offer claims be discontinued or modified to ensure that the list or strike-through price reflected a price at which an appreciable number of sales for the product were made, or that the list or strike-through price was a bona fide price that had been offered in the regular, uh, you know, significant amount of time in the regular course of business. And as well, that the limited time deals were only available for a limited time, and that a reasonable amount of time passed before the advertiser made similar claims.
And so the last case we'll talk about is the Agendia case. And this presented a very interesting issue about whether or not a material connection disclosure was required when a company used positive statements made by a physician. It's certainly a scenario that can come up in a pharma context, and this was a bit of a novel case for NAD, and it was also a case that presented a scenario that is not directly discussed in the FTC endorsement guides. So this case hopefully provided some guidance for a scenario that may come up in the healthcare space. So specifically at issue were some LinkedIn posts that the advertiser Agendia had made. And they appeared on Agendia's LinkedIn account, and they linked to articles in which a Dr. Johnson was interviewed. One post read, Dr. Johnson, president of the American Society of Breast Surgeons, explains how Agendia's MammaPrint provides more consistent results for Black women than any other gene expression profiling tests, enabling more personalized treatment. And then there was another similar post. So the competitor here brought a challenge uh, asking that NAD require that the advertiser include a material connection disclosure in these posts. So, what were the facts here? Was there a material connection that would require a disclosure? The doctor here was not paid to endorse the product. There was no payment to endorse, to create any content the for the advertiser to promote this kind of testing. Uh, but there was a relationship between the advertiser and the doctor here, whose statements they were promoting because she spoke positively about the product, about the testing that they're doing. The doctor here was participating with the company, consulting with them on a study that they were doing about their testing. She was reimbursed for travel to participate in some of that consulting at an annual meeting. Now, there wasn't anything here that necessarily would have changed her opinion. Doctor wasn't being paid to provide an opinion. There wasn't really anything all that unusual about the work she was doing from a medical standpoint. Uh, Being paid to participate in a study, getting her clinic reimbursed to participate in the study, were appropriate and not unusual. These were reimbursements. They weren't the kind of incentivized payments that you may see given to an endorser. So NAD said that nothing here. There was no reason to think that what she said positively about the testing it was nothing other than her honest opinion. However, looking at it from a consumer point of view, it was what would be a closer than expected relationship between the doctor and the advertiser here, and particularly the fact that it came from from the company's account that they were boosting these payments without disclosing that they had some kind of relationship with the doctor. NAD said that a material connection disclosure was appropriate here because it was a closer than expected relationship that consumers should be aware of as they weigh the endorsement.
So, in conclusion, just some parting remarks. Health claims are held to a higher standard of proof, so it's very important to make sure that to tailor your claims to the support. And remember that your audience, right? Consumers may take away a broader efficacy message than intended, and sophisticated healthcare providers also need truthful and accurate claims. And it's also worth noting sometimes, users of the system think that there's never a good survey. But you saw in the Galderma case that in fact, there was actually a good survey and we did rely on it. So, those are always very helpful in terms of determining consumer takeaway.
Also, be very mindful when making any kind of pricing claim. This is on the minds of regulators as it is on consumers, of course. And with endorsements, remember it from a consumer point of view. When in doubt, disclose the material connection if it is something that consumers might consider as they weigh the value of the endorsement. So I hope that gave everyone a good update on what we're seeing in the pharma space and in health-related products lately at NAD. We'll be back with some more updates in this space, and we'll be talking about some other industries in coming episodes.
And last but not least, mark your calendars for the NAD conference. It's back in New York at the Conrad Hotel on September 28th and 29th.
Thank you again for tuning into this episode of The Ad Watchers. We hope you enjoyed it.
Join us next month for another episode of The Ad Watchers. As always, you can head over to our website, bbbprograms.org, to learn more about what we do at the National Advertising Division or any of our other self-regulatory programs. That's all for this episode. See you next time. Thanks again for tuning into Ad Watchers. Be sure to check out our previous episodes at accountabilitystudio.org, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to get notified about our next episode.